2, 1. All right, we're live on YouTube. Good evening, YouTube. Okay, IG is next. In 3, 2, 1. Moving nice tonight. Good evening, IG. Okay, we're live on IG. And last but not least, let's go. Let's get X. X should be ready. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Post. Sentence. Very good. Questionmarc. Okay, live on X. Top post, but that means nothing to you.
Nice. The dog just came up too, so
Good, good. That's
we have an audience. See? Yes.
How old?
5.
I have one. She is 17 and a half, and every day is an adventure.
Yeah, this one's a retired racing greyhound.
Oh.
So
You get it out to the park?
yeah, I take her to the field. Let her run around for a bit.
She's fast?
Yeah, well, she's fast.
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
Good evening, X.
So she's fast when she wants to be. So
I have a Jindo, and let me tell you, she used to be one of the fastest. She was, she used to give a lot of dogs a run for their money, and it's tough watching her get old, man. But she used to really. She had a unique talent at pivoting and turning and shaking them loose. I always enjoyed that. All right, switching the camera 2. Okay, there we go. All right.
Nice.
Start everything. I'll see you on the show.
Sounds good. You want to sit down? No, sit down. Lie down. Come on. Lay down.
You know it's a shame when a woman spends all her time alone. When I am perfectly willing to give her everything she needs.
Nice.
So I don't care about her past.
That's so nice.
So I don't care what she's been through. I just wanna fill one night with good love, baby. That's all I wanna do. So baby, I just wanna set your body free. And I don't care what's going on in the night outside my door. I just wanna get your head right, baby. Give you all the love I got for sure. So baby, if you've got that feeling, you know I wanna give you that midnight healing. Oh, I just wanna make love to you all night long. Midnight healing, baby. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about now.
You think
Ha ha ha
Amazon.
ha. YouTube. YouTube. All right. Let me get over to this desk here. Let me say hello to everybody. Let's check audio, make sure everything's good to go. YouTube almost got us with a commercial, but not on the hour of power.
Very nice.
All right. All right. What's up, y'all? Well, you guys know what time it is. Welcome to the hour of power, y'all. Let me just make sure I hear audio. I think we're good there. Everything's good to go. Let me just check this one more time. Let's make sure we're in focus. Yeah, we're good. All right. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the show. Okay, so tonight's guest, not part of Web3, but yet part of the art world. I had a chance to meet this gentleman at Bushwick Galleries at Yusupata's solo show. I didn't really get a chance to know him, but I heard he makes a very mean breakfast. We're going to talk to him about his art. And not only are we going to talk to him about his art, but he also has a very big curated show coming up. Vivid Force, the bold color of power at Bushwick Galleries, in which I have a piece showing. So without further ado, let's bring him on and say hello to him, and let's get the show started. All right. That's one. Hang on, Mike. Hang on. Let me get you on both screens. All right. Very good. Mike, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with Mark. So I see we have the Palmetto right here staring at me too. So,
I want to make sure I get it right on the first. It's O'Malley, right? Am I saying it right?
O'Malley. Yep.
O'Malley. Okay. Mike, we usually start the show off with, and welcome to HOP, by the way. But we usually start the show off with a very generic question, which is, why don't you take a couple minutes and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about you, your art, and yeah, let everybody get to know you a little bit better. So why don't you take it from here, man?
All right, great. Thanks. So my name is Michael O'Malley. I've been doing art now for a couple years. I've always been creative, but a little after 2009, I was in the military for almost 8 years, got out of the military, moved to Boston, kind of dabbled, and then started going to museums, started going to galleries, and kind of that, question we always get when we're looking at other people's art or just exhibits in general is, can I do this? And I told myself that, standing in a Vanderplas gallery on Orchard Street a few years back, I was like, can I be in here? And so I actually went back to Boston and I just started painting. And my whole idea was, well, let me just do 10 quick ones. I kind of have like a little OCD going from the military and everything. So I was like, why don't I give myself like 48 hours, hard stop? It is what it is. Because I know some artists, it's never done and we just keep going and going and going and going. But I was like 10 paintings. And then after that, we'll have a party. You know, I lined up some performers, some local rappers I knew, DJs, stuff like that. I got to the 10 and I was like, no, let me keep going. So I was still knocking out paintings. And fast forward, you know, I'm sitting in a hotel room in Korea and I made a decision like this is my dog. Yep. I made a decision in a hotel room in Korea that I was moving from Boston and moving to New York. I was already making the trip back and forth like almost every weekend, and found a place while I was sitting in that hotel room, signed the lease, came back a week later. I moved to New York, but I've been around the world. Like I said, I was in the military, but before that, my family is prior military. My dad was in for 20 something years, so we bounced around, and I had I guess the great opportunity to uh, experience different cultures, meet different people. So I never kind of had like roots in one place. So I got to, you know, see what it was like in North Carolina, see what it was like in Rhode Island, see what it was like in Vermont, Montana, you know, Tacoma, Washington. And then, you know, I've lived in Japan twice, California, Cleveland, Ohio. You know, Boston was the longest I've ever lived in one place. So I always say I'm from Boston, but I was born in Chicago. And now I'm in Brooklyn. I'm in Bushwick. So
All right. All right. I got a lot of questions. Definitely a lot of questions. But let's start with what are we doing here? Yeah, there we go. Let's start with little Micheal O'Malley. That's where I always like to dig around, but I gotta bring back all these questions through our talk. It certainly sounds like you have a very often, you know, I often say that perspective comes from seeing a lot of different other perspectives. You know, people, you know, there's people who live in the city. They never go outside of you know, a 6, 8, 9 block radius, and their entire lives. And then there's others that, you know, travel the world. Yeah. So first question right off the bat: what military? What
so my father was in the Navy. He worked with the Marines as a Fleet Marine Corps. So he was a corpsman. And then I worked with fighter jets also in the Navy. It was an interesting thing. I was going to college. I went to GW in DC, transferred to the University of Vermont. I was there. I was doing international affairs, trying to learn Arabic. Turns out I'm not good at making the sound of a camel spitting. But and it just got to the point where I realized I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't feel like I don't have any like real world experience. So I stole my friend's car and drove to the recruiting station and signed up for the Navy, didn't tell anyone, and then went to MEPS, came back, you know, and then told my parents, and then a month later I was gone. So
I'll say this: the OCD definitely carried over to you. Um,
yes.
it's a very just looking at the placement. You guys are going to love this tour, but looking at the placement of your artworks as you walked up the stairway, I was like, "Holy shit! Those things are like placed perfectly."
Yeah.
So you could definitely see the translating OCD. But going back to a kid, right? What was growing up like? I mean, was there art prevalent when you were younger? I mean, was it around? Was there anybody in your life that did art? Did you do art? Or was, you know, it's like had the art thing come in? But first, you know, what about growing up? Like, what, you know, is it's yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah. So I have an amazing family. I have two outstanding brothers and one sister, all very artistic. My brother he's phenomenal. So you know, we came from a family that was always kind of like transplants. You know, we'd be there for 2, 3, 4 years, pick up, move. So you'd make friends, and then you know you'd move. So some of my friends that I have from like say my quote unquote childhood, are folks that I really only got to spend like a year or two with. And then, my dad, amazing, would be like, "We're moving to Vermont." And you're like, "Where is Vermont? Like, what is this? Like, what is happening?" So we would drive cross country, and then next thing you know, we would be in a new town, new place. Um, I always liked the city better. So sometimes, you'd end up in Montana for a year and you'd be like, "This is amazing, but I don't know what to do besides freeze." But art was always a thing, and I think that was like where it was kind of an escape. So we didn't have TV growing up. We had PBS, so definitely watched a lot of Faulty Towers and shows like that. But it was always like drawing or escaping in art. Um, when I was really young, I won a contest in Newport, Rhode Island that was in the newspaper for the post office. And I found the picture like a while ago. It's terrible, but it's amazing. It's amazingly so bad for like I think I was like 8 years old or something. But also did a project for the United Nations for an art exchange with Cambodia. So we'll kind of get to that later on. But I do have like a very big connection with Cambodia just because of like my childhood of having that experience as well. But we've always done art, and it's kind of like been a big thing throughout my life until the military. Once I got to the military, it was kind of like creativity kind of dies a little bit. So after the Navy is kind of when it slowly started coming back. And of course, that was I was very lucky to have people in my life that encouraged me to kind of like create again, which took a process. So
I'm why I'm curious why I don't want to wait till we get there because I'm never going to remember. But why does creativity die? I think we had a feed go down on Facebook, so I'm just going to restart that. But I'm
okay.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here talking to you. But why? Is it the regiment? Is it the? I mean, do they? Yeah, I would imagine the military just does not care about art, especially because their mindset would probably be we're protecting the artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is am I on point? Am I close with that one?
No, I think you're kind of spot on. The whole purpose of boot camp or basic training is essentially to break you down, then build you back up. So um, I don't think being an individual is really kind of highlighted in the military because you all want to operate as one. So I knew a few artists, during my time in the Navy, and they were kind of like I guess you could say like the oddballs, whereas most of us were, we were doing what we had to do. And in my case, I was working with fighter jets, F-14s, F-18 Super Hornets, and then I had the lucky opportunity of running a recruiting station in Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. So that was also interesting. But it's really a place where you have to do what you have to do, and it's not really kind of like, "Hey, let's talk about this." It's more like, "Let's execute." This is what we're doing. This is how you do it. Now do it, and then essentially just following kind of like those orders. So. Um, it's a different way of living. It's a different life. I mean, I don't encourage it. I hate to say this, but um, I find at least like, the older I get, the more I look back, and while I'm proud of what I did, it's something that I kind of wish on no one, just because it does kind of like, you carry that stuff with you for the rest of your life, which also kind of goes into my art. And my art is kind of like now a little bit of a therapeutic release, and that's where all these, the frog era is coming from with the helmet and
Yeah, that's something that I noticed, and I was just like, where did this come from? This is kind of like some like what's the name of that movie that I'm thinking about? It's the cover of the actual film. Oh shit, what is
yeah,
the? You know what I'm talking? Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
Full Metal Jacket.
yeah. Stanley Kubrick, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I'm like, is this like? Well, and I wonder how this fits in. But now a lot of it makes sense. Question: did you fly the jets, just or were you engineering, or you worked on the jets? Yeah, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
So I worked on the jets. I didn't fly them. In order to
Okay.
fly, you have to have a degree. I left college, I believe, in my junior year. I was really close to graduating, and I was like, no. Um, so I ended up as a maintainer. I kept the log books for these jets, and if anything were to happen to them, they would essentially take a look at like what I did, and hopefully like everything's good to go, or else I would get to go to a military prison, which is that keeps a little pressure on you at all times. So happy to say that never happened. But yeah, no, the frog really I didn't make the connection either with the movie. This is something that I kind of just did. And then someone else brought that up, like, it looks kind of like this. And then just
Totally.
recently, someone told me that it makes sense after they found out I was in the Navy
Yep. Yep.
because frogmen. And I was like, oh, that didn't even connect with me either. So, um, it's just, I guess it's like my subconscious kind of coming out and just saying like, hey, this is it.
You
Yeah.
know, it's always fascinating the just getting to know artists, and then I yeah, it's like I said before in the test show, right? Like I only really know you from the once or twice that our paths crossed, and so I could look at your art, but I would never know how your art got to this point. And so that's why I always feel like the backstory or the origin story is very fascinating, because all of a sudden you could connect things. You connect things from childhood throughout your life, and it's like, oh, look at this. Um, so, so traveling around a lot. Just out of curiosity, what you favor anywhere more than anywhere else? I mean, is there, it's
Oh,
and I'm curious, how does New York rank up?
well, New York is always going to be number one. I think that's a given. My close second would be Tokyo. Um, and then I love Cambodia. But um, yeah, the traveling, it's it does give a unique perspective, and I think it does play into my art. I do a lot of kind of, I guess you could say, like, in my mind, it's kind of honoring other cultures and other places and other experiences that I've had. People, you'll see a lot of like 777 in my art, and that's really a shout out to tattoo shop in Cambodia where I ended up doing some art the last time I was there, and phenomenal people. So if any of them are watching right now, like, I'll see you soon, hopefully. But um, yeah, no, New York is always going to be New York, and New York is always going to be the Mecca. Whether it's art, music, anything. This is kind of like the place where you're either going to make it or break it. And I think that's what's like so great about this city is, it never sleeps. And coming from Boston too, which, sorry Boston, but you guys get sleepy too quick. Um, the trains are always running
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
People are always
two
doing stuff.
a.m. The right.
Right, yeah, exactly. So
Not New York though. In New York, you could you find things. I feel like things are just starting to open at 2 a.m.
that was an adjustment, it was funny when, talking before I moved here, like, oh yeah, well, we don't go out until midnight. I'm like, midnight? I turn into a pumpkin around 10:30, and they're like, no, 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 no. You're gonna have to adapt. And then next thing I know, it's 5 in the morning, and I'm like walking home, and I'm like, okay, all right. I haven't done this in a while, but it's an adjustment, but at the same time, like, you really feel like you're alive, and I think that's what's like so great about this city is like it's a big melting pot of everyone. So you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it never gets old. You can get on the train right now and have a completely different experience than you did like, 3 hours ago. And the art, I mean, the art is phenomenal, whether it's street art or artists working out of these galleries, or the collectives that are out there, the festivals, people that come from other places into New York to have shows and stuff. you meet such amazing people and see so many talented individuals that are creating masterpieces, and you're just like, this is, I'm happy to find a place and like kind of like a little slice within this world. So
Fair enough. What up, Big Money? What up, T-Bird? I see you guys out there. Let me know if the stream on Facebook goes down again. What up, Hito? I see you over there on X dropping comments. Yes, it's HOP time. Michael, let me ask you a question. So after, I'm going to say, let's just say, how long did you travel around with your father? And then was there ever a point where you settled down? I mean, or it's, maybe grade school, or were you still bouncing around? High school, college, what was all that like?
yeah, so like I said, I was born in Chicago. I was actually born at the Naval Hospital in Great Lakes. It looks like a very dark, Stalinish kind of brutalist building. I saw it from the ceremony hall when I was in basic training. I could see where I was born. That was interesting. But born in Chicago, lived in Virginia when I was like a baby. Then we moved to North Carolina. I believe I went to maybe kindergarten in North Carolina. Yeah, maybe kindergarten in North Carolina. Then we moved to Newport, Rhode Island, then back to North Carolina. By that point, my dad was getting ready to retire. He retired and decided to get another master's degree, so he moved us all to Great Falls, Montana. So we were in Montana for a year before he moved us to Tacoma, Washington. And by that time, that was my freshman year in high school. Loved it. I was at Bellarmine Prep. So shout out to Pete and all them. But, you know, a year later, he's like, hey, we're moving to Vermont. So we pack up everything again and we drive cross country. We're in the middle of the night. He stops in Vermont and he's like, we're here. And I'm like, where is here? Like, what is this? And the sun comes up. It's this small little town and it's like one of those one stop lights. The high school was next to a cow farm and the basketball court, because I played basketball a lot. And he takes me to the gym and he's like, this is where you're going to play basketball. And it was a big, giant purple Chicago Bull. And I was like, I don't even know where I am right now. Like, what's happening? So, spent 3 years there. I mean, it was a great experience and I appreciated it more when I got older. During the time, it wasn't really popping like that. But, after that, as soon as I graduated, I went to DC. From DC, went to actually stay with my cousin in Cleveland for a hot second. That was interesting. Then, they were like, you got to go back to school. So they made me apply to UVM. Now I'm back in Burlington, Vermont. Joined the Navy from Burlington, Vermont. I was like one of the few kids that I've ever like run into in the Navy from Vermont, which whenever you ran into one of them, you were like, oh my God, you too? But from there, I was in Japan and then Japan, California, then California back to Ohio, then from Ohio to Boston. Boston's where, like I said, it's where I call home, is because it's the longest I've lived in one place. But then went back to Japan, went to Sacramento, California. From Sacramento, Boston called and they were like, hey, we need you back. Moved back to Boston. And then yeah, I bought a condo in Burlington, thinking that I was like, oh, this is going to be great, best of both worlds, city, and then escape up to Burlington. COVID happened, and I got stuck, just with a bunch of trees up there, being like, all right, this is interesting. But came back to Boston full time, and then yeah, still traveling, still doing a lot of stuff like that, and then said, hey, I'm moving to New York. I've always wanted to move to New York, always wanted to move to Bushwick specifically. Um, and I was like, this is the moment. It was either New York or I was moving overseas, and I was like, let me do New York first before I just dip out and disappear. So
Question. A lot of times they it's interesting. They say as a kid, um, if you people who grow up near airports, people who grow up near train stations or have subways running by their windows tend to be a little more, they have more problems focusing because it's a very it's just sleeping, a lot of, it's always technically the human being is not supposed to,
Yeah.
live near this type of noise, because this noise will, you're supposed to have this peace of mind from time. So then, living in a very busy, noisy place, the human being tends to be a little more, it's like here, there, here, there.
Yeah.
Um, that's just like where you live that would have an effect. Now, that comes to mind because of the moving around so much, right? Because I'm not going to say that there isn't stability, because eventually there would be stability in the moving, or a pattern in the moving, which you then would get used to, which would be your stability in a way. But you feel like the jumping around made you stronger. I mean, like I said in the beginning of the conversation, some people, they stay in one place, they never leave that area.
Yeah.
But for you, it's a lot of different places. And then has that translated to you as you've, taken off on your own? And do you ever see yourself kind of like, settling down, or would that almost be impossible? Like, I'm just curious about you. And does it have an effect
Yeah.
on your art as well, right? Because, does the way you create change? And, I would, well, curious if it has an effect on your life. If you see the changes, or I don't know if yeah, but why don't I let you answer? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with moving. I'm comfortable with adapting.
Right.
Um, and I think that's one of the things where the moving around did make me stronger. Just because, the stability you're talking about really came from my family. I'm gonna just say it, my parents were very strict, like very, very strict, overly strict. But I had my two brothers and I had my sisters. So, if we're talking about like sports, it would be, my brother and I against my brother and my sister. If we talked about doing stuff like that, we were always kind of like a unit, which was the stability that kind of we needed, going to these different places and being the new person, and trying to like figure out, the lay of the land, like, what's happening. But also too, like as you're doing that, you're picking things up, and I think that's one of the great things that I had growing up, is just, again, you're not stuck in one place. And like, not going to knock it, the folks that live in one place, but I had the great opportunity of, being like, hey, I like that. Hey, I don't like that. Hey, I'm glad I'm moving from this place. Like, I'll be completely honest, I hated North Carolina. I used to get thrown in trash cans like as a kid. I was like 90 pounds, and I was a little nerd. I was like straight A's, and just just a little different, but um and then moving to Montana, it was like completely different people, and it was great just kind of doing that and seeing kind of like how you evolve as a person as you're experiencing these different things. So, um, I've always moved to as an adult. I get a little antsy, like not like a rolling stone, but kind of like more of a, there's a lot of life, to live, a lot of people, a lot of experiences that I still haven't had. So staying in one place for too long, I don't like when things become repetitive. Like I like routine, but I don't like when it becomes like, oh, this is the same stuff. Like Boston, you're starting to run into the same people all the time. And you're like, how am I still running into you? Like I shouldn't be running into you in this city. And I mean, it does happen in New York too, but it's the chances are relatively low, that you're gonna end up doing that. And if it does happen, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe I ran into you. Whereas you again, hello, 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 but no, I think the moving around, it's great. Do I see myself continuing to move at some point? Like 100%. I always would like to think of New York as like kind of like my home base, but you know, the world is such a big place and it's still a small place at the same time. Like, you know, my artist friends in Colombia, have to get down there and see them. Definitely have to get back to Cambodia. You know, I love Korea, love Japan. I love all of Asia. And that kind of stems from, you know, again, being that small kid, going to like public libraries and locking yourself in rooms, trying to teach yourself how to speak a different language as a 10-year-old, being like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to teach myself, you know, and yeah, no, it's just it's collecting these experiences because at the end of the day, you know, it does translate into my art, you know, and I appreciate where I've been and where I still haven't like gone just because it all plays into my art, you know, and everything that I've like lived and everything about me is in this art. And, you know, I purposely make some of this, you know, anyone can do it, you know, but there's a rhyme, there's a reason to it all. And it's really because I'm telling a story and I may be the only one getting it, but you know, it's kind of like, you know, me kind of almost like spilling secrets in a way. And some folks do understand it. There's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of like codes in some of my stuff. And some folks get it and some don't and some, you know, never will. But you know, like I said before, it's kind of shouting some experiences or moments out, places, people, you know, just different things like that. So
The what up, Alan? I see you out there. Alan is military as well. He's Marines. What up, Gina? So question about why? Well, I mean, I would imagine that was probably family. You know, it sounds like your father might have applied that military um, logic or military
yeah.
knowledge to raising a family, especially when you use the word strict. You know, I would imagine discipline, right? Discipline's the first
Yeah.
word that comes to mind. Did you have that military discipline growing up, or did you really acquire that when you decided the military and also the college thing, right? You were so close to finishing. Why the last year? You know, why?
Yeah, no, you know, my parents have an interesting story. You know, my last name's O'Malley, but I'm not really Irish. You know, my dad was an orphan in Rhode Island. He's from Massachusetts, orphan. Grew up in an orphanage, joined the Navy out of the orphanage. Chose the last name O'Malley from a Bing Crosby movie that they used to watch all the time with the nuns.
This is
And
nuts. This is crazy. You know, I don't believe in
yeah,
coincidences. I don't mean to interrupt you, but went to this framing place to get this piece framed for Thursday, and a guy walked in after me carrying a big Bing Crosby poster. This is crazy right now.
that's why.
Yeah, I don't believe in. I never
Yeah.
believe. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, the movie's going my way, and it's Father O'Malley. So the guy was a priest. I think my parents, at least my father, always had like some hope that one of us would become a priest or my sister would be a nun. Um, Unfortunately for him, it didn't work out that way. But yeah, my mom too. My mom's from Cleveland. You know, both of her parents were deaf, so she essentially kind of took care of her family, and they met in Cleveland, and yeah, they eventually had me, you know. Um, but yeah, no, it's I've always had kind of like that upbringing because and I'll just say it, you know, I think, you know, as parents, like like people always want the best for their kids, you know, and they always want better, you know. So yeah, my dad was like very strict. And I think a lot of that had to either come from the military or you know his time at the orphanage, and both of them not really having kind of like someone to look at and say like, oh, this is how you do this. It was both of them kind of like, let's be the Brady Bunch, and that's what they tried to do for the longest time. You know, and sorry guys, it didn't work, but at the same time, it really kind of it put us on the path where one, we were independent, two, we're hard workers, and three, I mean, I always joke that like you can't like really kill an O'Malley because no matter what happens, like we still kind of like keep going. Um, and get knocked down, just get back up, keep going. We never kind of get stuck in these moments that kind of stagnate, for other people. But yeah, no, that's where it comes from. And then, my once I went into the Navy, it was just kind of like more of the same, where I was like, okay, I've done this my entire life now. Um, and yeah, no, and then when I got out, now it's just dealing with kind of like the aftermath and after effects, and it's just, an ongoing process of just kind of like, loosening up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. I still get every now and then, which is funny. Like I'll go to these shows and like I like electronic music. I like hip hop. I like electronic music. I like all music, but I'll be at a, Brooklyn Mirage, like RIP. But last year I'm there and someone turns around, they're like, "Are you a cop?" And I was like, "No, I'm not a cop." And they're like, "You look like a cop." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So the longest time I would have to tell the barber, like, I have some amazing barbers like in Boston, I have some amazing barbers here. And I always have to tell them like, not a cop, not a cop. Like they'll cut my hair and I'll look like an undercover cop, like walking around this like, neighborhood that I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy. So um yeah, no, it's funny like that, but that's life.
Yeah, I don't think it's the hair, man. I think it's the discipline. Yeah, I don't think it matters what haircut. You think when you there's a obviously right like you said boot camp. Um, that regiment, right? That regiment gets built into you. It's not just a, let me go here and knock this out. It becomes a way of life. It becomes a
Yeah.
habit. And then I think the longer and longer that habit starts to, leak into everything. It just, just seeing the way you set up everything and your passion about having your artwork behind you and the way you went up the stairs, and I'm like, holy shit, he's got those things perfect. I'm like, that. I mean, that really, that you could see the discipline in everything. Um, and that's just that I think that ends up becoming, part of who you are, your story, and everything that you do. Um, the before we well, obviously no art probably in the military, and then you got out, or you when you were out. But before that, it's you. Did you keep up with any art during high school or college or anything? And
Yeah,
what
no,
what made you? What was you? So you seem like the type of guy that confidently makes decisions. So to like, bail on college 1 year away from finishing, you had to have the mindset of like, I don't need this. I don't need this to win or to be successful. Where a lot of people get stuck in that school system mentality. So, what was it that made you, at 180 and yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, in high school I had a lot of art shows. What's interesting is some of my early art teachers, they would say my stuff is too chaotic. And so I'm doing something, and it's, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer smoking like a joint and drinking a 40 and, all this other stuff happening in the background. And they're like D. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a D? They're like, it's too chaotic. You need to focus on one thing. So, I mean, you can kind of see I didn't take their advice, but uh,
Yeah, yeah. All right, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. But yeah, no, I had art shows, which were great. I had some amazing art teachers, in high school. Outside of the one guy who gave me D's, but yeah, and then college is kind of like where I had everything planned out. I was going to be an international lawyer specializing in the Middle East. I was going to learn Arabic and I was going to work in the Middle East. And then, that's what my plan was. I went to George Washington University. The advisor was like, "Oh, this is very ambitious." And I'm like, this word that I always hear, very ambitious. You're taking classes, the early classes, and like you're taking classes that you really should space these things out. I'm like, nope, I got it. I took all AP classes. In high school, I was a very good student. And yeah, no, college was like a different game. And I ended up working 3 jobs, that year too. So kind of all over the place. So and it's expensive, student loans are kind of crazy. So fast forward at University of Vermont, they didn't have international affairs. What they had was African history. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to adjust my plan. I'm going to work, Middle East is still there, but I had a very large interest in Mali. And I was like, well, let me work towards this. But it got to the point where I kind of started like doing some real world thinking. And I was like, listen, I don't have any money and I'm about to graduate very soon. I have student loans and I have no job prospects. I don't even know what job I can get, with this degree. And yeah, I was doing, hood rat stuff with my friends and I was just like, hey, this is time to like actually figure this out and get out of town. And that's when I didn't want to do the military, but and to me, it felt like the only option really to do something and get that real world experience that I felt like I needed. And, fast forward, yeah, it changed me for sure. The folks that I kind of left behind, they all became doctors. I got out in 2009 and started college all over again at Suffolk University in Boston, and all those credits. I had the most electives ever. I started as a freshman all over again, graduated in 2013 with a degree in marketing because I was like, what's the easiest? Like,
Right.
just I took one semester of electrical engineering, and the guy like when I was talking to him before I signed up for everything, he was like, I'm not good at math. Like, listen, I'm not good at math. And he was like, there's no math. Like, don't worry about it. I was like, okay. No, it was all math. It was like, it was terrible. But, um, and marketing fits, especially kind of like with what I do and translates very well with the art stuff as well.
Sure.
I design shirts, trying to like, keep things like on brand and kind of off brand too, but kind of, the shirts I've been designing, I walk into a place like Supreme and I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't really that hot. But not to knock them, but I'm like, if I'm gonna wear something, why don't I like make something myself and something that I would want to see someone else wear. And so that's kind of like where that kind of comes into play. So it's a shout out to like the art, but then it's also like, could this be a standalone thing? Like, let me see what I can do. And then most importantly, I think like the biggest thing about all of this is community. I want to be able to like be in a place in a position. And maybe this is like my military speaking, or maybe it's like, growing up, the way I did, but it's always like, how do I put people ahead and how do I make people better? Throughout my entire like professional career, I was working in HR for the National Park Service, Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Army. Um, and then National Park Service again, and then private contracting for like places like, TSA, agriculture, EOUSA, Department of Justice, stuff like that. And again, my brain is completely different than that stuff, but it's like, my military background kind of, is good at making things happen. But going back to the community thing, it's like that's really where I'm like, hey, if I do this, it's gonna get this person into a better position. It's gonna put this person in a better place, create more opportunities for other people. So that's been kind of like the art thing too. So when I left college to join the Navy, that wasn't like really my thought process. It was like, hey, I have to get out of town, like I have to leave. And it was probably one of the best things that I did just because of like when I got out, I had all these other tools that didn't have beforehand. And I said, okay, you know, like I can make something happen. The reason being is because I know like if you just keep working, put your head down, you can make something happen. And that's like the biggest thing is like if you feel like you're stuck, keep going, you know. If you feel like, you know, it's not going to get any better, it's going to get better, you know. I run a lot, and I think a lot of it has to do with like just mental health, you know, working out that PTSD and all that stuff. But I run all the miles, and I think because for the longest time I was like numb, but it also taught me something like, oh, if you run, you know, you're going to start here, but you're going to end up somewhere else. And apply that the same with life. Apply that with art. You know, you're going to start here. Well, they always say like what, 100 paintings, you're going to find yourself. Nah, keep doing it. Like every single day, you're going to find something new, and there's going to be people along the way. They're going to be like, hey, you know, shout out to Turtle Caps, Cole, Tibor, Below Key, Wizard, you know, even Benzie, you know, all these people that have come, you know, Nicole Cheever, all these people that have come and like helped, you know, hey, your shading needs to be this. Hey, you know, your line work could do this, or hey, you're on the right track, or hey, this is garbage. And you're like, yeah, I know this is so good, right? So, but um, you know, it's people building up other people. And I think that's the biggest thing. You know, leaving college, I feel in a lot of ways it set me back, but at the same time, I feel blessed in so many other ways because it, without everything happening before, I wouldn't be here today. And I think no matter what, whether it's like the ups and downs of life, you know, all the stuff we go through, you know, the wins, the losses, it all has to happen for you to be here right now. So my art would be completely different. I would be completely different. And I'm happy with who I am. I love who I am. And all the bad stuff had to happen for me to be here now. So
Leave no artist behind.
yeah.
Sounds like before you went in, it was more about what could I get from the table, and when you got out, it was more like what could I bring to the table. Um, Marketing. I mean, what a good choice, especially being an artist. I would say marketing is one of the things that no artist wants to do. You see how terrible artists are with their social media. I always, it's one of my biggest issues is posting here. You got to post there. You got to post here. Post here. Let me get over here. Let me make 2 posts here. Now more than ever, you have to, you know, whether it's TikTok, you know, YouTube shorts, streams, you know, live streams of you working, so many different ways, especially with social media now. Not only that, but the merchandising, which, you know, you showed me flashes of before the show. An artist now today, you know, I think before, right? Before an artist would have to, you got to go knock on gallery doors. That was your
Yeah.
thing, right? Now, you have to post. You got get your work out there, tag it. You know, then you know, get in the real world. You know, network. Then get back on post. You know, show activity, merchandise. Make sure there's different ways. I say this all the time in spaces on X. I say this all the time. They got like, you got to create different streams of revenue. You can't just depend on the sale. You know, you got a stream of, you know, somehow online. You know, stream yourself creating art, the whips, you know, the works in progress, the videos, TikTok alone. I was talking to my friend. He said, you know, my friend's wife, she, my wife's cousin, 8-second videos. You know, it's just stayed with it. Now $30,000 a month. It could be anything. You know, you grow the accounts. Now the accounts stream of revenue coming in from art. Merchandise, right? Let's say you have an award-winning shirt. You might not make the $1 million sale off the artwork, which is what every artist wants. But What would you say no to $1 million in merchandise revenue? Um, if a shirt got hot, if a celebrity, all the time, stylists looking through different things, they find one of your shirts. Next thing you know, an artist is wearing it on stage. Everybody wants that shirt. Now you make $1 million sale off the shirt, but yet it's still that work of art, which in my mind raises the value of the artwork itself. Stickers. Who's great at this? Zapata is great at this. Yeah, that's that whole art cartel. Hudasaka, Luca. You see them all the time. They got the stickers. They got the shirts. They got the merchandise. It's just such a where most sometimes a lot of people get stuck on the art of it. There's so many different streams of income that you can make happen. That why wouldn't you take advantage? Where most people get stuck on just that art and they give up so quickly. Rather than seeing, well, I didn't sell. I couldn't get into a gallery. I got into a gallery. I didn't make any sales. But like, there's so many different more avenues, right? The marketing, it's everybody, a lot of, let me just check the time here and 9:57. We're cooking. The marketing behind every artist has the ability to be a marketer, right? Today, you have to be. Where a lot of artists just want to create. I think the true success now is you don't have to knock on gallery doors anymore. There's so many artists that have become successful through social media, through their whips, they don't even. There's probably artists out there that don't even sell in galleries. They probably have high-end collectors from, so in a day, right? In a day, let's just take the structure of a day or maybe the structure of a week. Coming from your mindset and the marketing mindset, how much time goes into the art? How much time goes into the marketing? How important is the marketing for your art? And how do you divvy that up? How do you decide how much time you spend where, especially probably since you want to create so much, you got to stop, right? You got to pump the brakes and wait, let me get a couple posts up. So how do you divvy up and decide your time?
So I'm very lucky that I have an amazing team behind me. I didn't have social media for the longest time just because I was like, it's too much. It's such a distraction. And everyone kept telling me, no, you have to have it. If you're gonna be successful with art, how are people going to see it? You're going to have it. So yes, I know. I'm sorry. I'm not on X yet, but
it's waiting for you.
I know they are. I'm still trying to rock IG, but when I started posting about my art, I really kind of was like doing what I liked. And I had a moment, and this is going to make some folks laugh, but I had a moment where someone took the phone from my hand, and he's a very well respected a DJ. Took it and he said, "Let me see your stuff." And was going through the phone. He was like, "Nope, nope, 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 nope," and he was like, tossed it back to me. He was like, "Yeah, you need to do this, this, and this." And I applied everything that they said. So every single time that someone, tells me something, I apply it and I use that. And then I market it myself like, I make these adjustments. So in terms of time allotment, I treat this just like any other job. There is that admin side where you're going to have to like focus on this. There is that engagement. But the creativity never stops. I'm in the studio, I'm always creating something, whether it's going to my studio in Bushwick, working alongside like, 3 other amazing artists, going to the gallery that I've been in like for what, 7 months now, over at the Bowery, like I said, or, being here, on my laptop, or having these conversations, trying to create more opportunities, whether it's, hey, I'm gonna try to sell shirts. Hey, I have these books that I made just recently, and it's kind of like a shout out to a summer of frogs. So it's like all different things. Little stuff. You said the sticker game. I've got so many great connections from very early on in New York, people putting me onto that, and then me just starting to like put stickers up, go to different shows, trade stickers, stuff like that. So big shout out to Nelly, who kind of got me on that. Another amazing artist, Nelly Snacks. But a lot of this, kind of like what makes it work, what doesn't work. They're not always going to be like hits, but we're talking about like different things. I like the Knicks, got to work with a Japanese designer to do this one. Um, and then like I said, you take these different kind of like life lessons that other people are giving you. Artist management is huge. How do you apply that into your art? How do you apply marketing into your art? The biggest advocate for you is always going to be you. So you have to put in the work. It's not gonna come to you. Someone's not gonna knock on your door one day and be like, "Do you have any art?" So we were just having this conversation in the studio last week about how you can't be passive. It's almost like a hustle, especially in New York. New York, like, hey, if you're not rocking, that gallery is going to find a different artist that is. Hey, if you're being difficult, you're easily replaceable. There's a million artists here. It's like what makes you stand out, what makes you different than everyone else. And I think the biggest thing for me is just being me. You know, I don't want to be anyone else. I want to do what I do. And like, yeah, I want to continue growing and getting better, but I'm marketing myself. Like I'm marketing my art, marketing like kind of just like me as a brand versus what I like. And believe me, there were filters on my old stuff that I was like, oh, I love this. And all the feedback I got was it gives me a headache. I can't watch this. And the average attention span for these posts are like 4 seconds. So if you're not catching people like this, they're moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just having a conversation yesterday, you know, about the difference between an artist account and or a business account, just with IG, the platforms, different platforms, and brought up, I'm over here trying to end like these posts on a certain beat, to the song that I selected because I'm curating this whole experience. And meanwhile, I'm on IG with the sound off, just going through other people's stuff, being like. So what's a time waster? What's not a time waster? Like, is the music really necessary? Probably not. It's the engagement. It's like, how do you catch the people? How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them interested? And it has to be, whether it's the whips, whether it's the finished project, whether it's kind of highlighting other people in your community, or it's the shirts, or it's a special project, or you're out there. You have to be out there. And I think that's the biggest thing is you got to be out there. You're not going to do anything if you're just going to sit at home and like being like, hey, you want to see my stuff? Like I remember early on, like I think early on in the summer, someone came into the gallery that I was at and they didn't have any social media. They didn't have anything. And there was a big back and forth about like, well, how is someone going to be able to see your stuff? Oh, well, I'm going to like, I can show them with my portfolio. And they're like, nah, we want to be able to see like all of your stuff, not like you kind of pulling it out. Like we want to see a whole body of work, not just, hey, here's my three things. Like, yeah, that's important, but it's also important to have a presence, because you're selling yourself. That's at the end of the day, you are the brand, you are the person, and you're, like I said, the biggest advocate of yourself. So,
We're about hour 5 in, so about
yeah.
5 minutes we should head over. But
Okay.
I got this saying, you have the best artwork in the world, but if nobody sees it, does it really matter? Um, the objective is to get the eyes on the art. That's what really
Yeah.
counts. You said that a couple times, and I'm sitting here like, holy shit, I feel like I'm talking to me.
Yeah. Well, let me, I don't mean to interrupt,
Yeah,
but let
yeah,
me
go
tell you
ahead, go
something.
ahead.
I just had this conversation. I literally just had this conversation where, you know, some of my early pieces, they were priced by someone else. And it was like, you can get 10 grand for this easily. And I was like, word, okay, I'm gonna do another 10 grand, same person, 10 grand. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm sitting on all this money. Okay, great. You know, it shows at a gallery, for I listed for 10 grand. It comes back, when the show's over, it's back on my wall. And then I had a realization, exactly what you're saying. The value is zero until it's actually out there. Right now on my wall, it's doing nothing except bringing me a lot of joy, you know, but
Oh,
no one's
that's a
seeing it,
fucking great point.
you know,
Yeah.
it's, it's no one's seeing it. So I'm appreciating it. The folks that come over to my house appreciate it because it's like a gallery in here. But in terms of like the value, in terms of the like reach, in terms of like engagement, in terms of like other people like getting to know your artwork, it's doing nothing on my wall. And that's where I had to take a big step back and say, stop being so possessive about your work. Early on, I don't want to let it go. I like it too much. I like where it's at. And now I'm like at the point where I'm going to make another because I'm always producing. I'm always making something. So take it, get it out of here, because I can replace it. I can make something new. I can do something else. But back to you. I'm so sorry, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
that
no, it's
made
cool.
it pop.
That's some of the best stuff I think I've ever heard on this show. You hear a lot of artists, especially when we hang out in spaces. Everybody's like, "Yeah, I had a really tough time letting this piece go," And but yo, you created it. Create something again. Create something better. Create something. But yeah, artists are very
Yeah.
married to their work, and not only that, but what an excellent point. I mean, you could have the nicest walls in the world, but if you don't have your stuff hanging out in front of people, who's seeing it? Who's there's no eyes on it. Same thing goes for social media. Um, Talk to me about, and then I think we should definitely maybe yeah. You know what? Let's. What I want to do is I want you to I give a I want you to give a tour of your place. We got to do
Yeah.
that, and then I want to go through your IG. I think we should. I don't know which one to do first. I feel like you should almost. I don't know if it's me who wants to get to this tour, because I'm so excited about it. Or
Yeah.
yeah, let's, I think we should run through your IG first.
Okay.
You didn't really give me any type of, you didn't give me any type of format here, so I think we should just skim through your IG, keep the
Yeah.
conversation going. Then I wanna jump to, I want you to give a tour, and then I want to sit down and talk about what you got going on Thursday, especially with the curation and the gallery and Bushwick and everything. So let me
Yeah.
let me move over here, and give me a second to move these things around. And man, what what great stuff to say on the show. Beyond oh man. Talk about resonating. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a tough question here. How much is talent and how much is networking?
You know, I'm going to be completely honest. There's sometimes when you can look at something and be like, a child can do that, or maybe did a child do that? But networking is huge. Networking is going to take that piece of art and value that at 10 grand. You could have the most talent in the world, but if no one sees it, hey, you're a dope artist, but no one knows you. And I think that's where it kind of goes back to like, the street art culture, especially like the graffiti folks, where you got to get up, you got to get up, you got to get up. People have to see you, people have to kind of like know who you are. And that's networking is so important. Now it's, it's not, hey, I need to know the right people. You just need to know people who know people who know people and just keep working. That's where the talent comes in. If you keep working, you keep applying yourself, at that point, yeah, someone's going to catch on, next person's going to catch on, next person's going to catch on. And word of mouth, I like things being organic. Organic takes longer, but I've always, uh, I've always thought of my art as kind of like that, as like just very organic, very kind of like on the street level. Not street art, but kind of like adjacent to that world. where I'm pulling stuff or pulling old street signs off the ground that have been sitting on Broadway for 2 months during the winter and cleaning that dirty thing up in my kitchen and then painting over it. Or finding old doors, what I like to call trash art, and then repurposing and remaking. Some of my favorite pieces are stuff that I found in the trash and then, paint it over. Um, but yeah, you need to get out there. You need to, I'm gonna joke, but shake hands, meet people, be vocal, say something. And that's where the magic really happens because one, you find like-minded individuals, but two, you find people that can make you better. And that's where, an added benefit to the networking is. But,
Yeah, I think what you said before, especially, was a tough pill to swallow. Especially, getting your stuff out there, but
Mhm.
the networking is an important part. How do people? A lot of times, I have a friend, my friend Miguel. He's been doing this for a long time, and he always says, have a story. Make sure there's a story
Yeah.
behind the work of art. They're going to remember you. They're going to remember your art from meeting
Mhm.
you. It's so important that they meet you, that they like you, that and if you leave this memory, you'd be surprised how much your art, how long they'll remember your art, and how long and the whole thing
Yeah.
coincides. Who wants to hear that? Who do who you rather be creating? What artist doesn't want to be creating and in the studio? It's just next piece, next piece, next piece, next piece.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's what are your thoughts on not everybody's a people person, right? What are your thoughts on how to
Yeah.
break through that?
Yeah, no, I like animals more than I like people. I'll just say that. Um, no, I think that's the thing is like I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a people person, but I think part of this is, yeah, as we as artists, like we just want to create, we want to put our head down and work. But the other part, the world we live in now is that content creation, and it's, hey, how can we curate this to tell that story? How can we say something without saying something? And how do we put our art forward? Put it first. And that's where kind of like you're just gonna have to suck it up, and that's where, I've done a lot of public speaking, I've done a lot of trainings, I've stood in front of people, in my professional life, having to say things that, I don't necessarily like want to, but I have to because that's the job. Um, and I do the same thing with my art, no, do I want to be, running around and doing a lot of this stuff that I'm doing? No, I'd rather be kind of home with my dog, but I'm doing it, and the reason is because you're showing up for other people. A lot of times it's not about you. It's, hey, I'm going to show support to this person. Hey, I'm going to go to this new studio because I know this person. You know, we have some folks in the show tomorrow that L'Amour Supreme is putting on in the city, and Sario's in that, Epic Uno's in that. Some heavy hitters are in this thing, and it's, hey, I'm gonna be there. You know, it's things like that where we just had a fundraising event for my good friend Tibor playing basketball, and the guy blew out his Achilles tendon right in front of me. Um, but so he's down, phenomenal artist. So all these artists came together and donated pieces so that we could try to pay for his surgery. It's things like that. It's that sense of community. It's being out there. And yeah, there's a lot of days I don't want to do it. There's a lot of days I don't want to talk to people. And it's just putting on that other hat and saying, you got to get it done. You got to get out here because it's not just you. You're also representing other people. If you want to focus on community, you're going to have to like really look at the people around you and say, hey, You know, how can I create more opportunities for you? You know, and some of these folks, they've been in the game for a very long time, and still there's opportunities that, they can still explore, and maybe I can help create, and vice versa. Mentoring people is a huge gift. It's a blessing, and being mentored by some of these kind of heavy hitters and established artists is huge as well. So balance. It's all about balance.
Interesting. You have a very strong sense of family, which I feel like you got from your parents. But hearing it translate to community within the artist community, at Web3, which it's I'm sure you're well aware, the you
Yeah.
Sapato, the
Yeah.
Saka, all these guys, right? It's we're constantly in spaces, the community, and very strong sense there, and I always felt like the art world outside of Web3 was very. Sometimes I felt like it was a little cutthroat, but talking to you, um, really a different perspective on it, listening and talking to you, right? Because I've always felt like artists, galleries, they'll push you out the way if they could get it. So it's nice to hear a different perspective, especially in the real art world, when it's not in the web world, or the NFT world. But I had a question. Yeah, 2023. So, when did you start painting? Right? How did it happen? And you mentioned that you're gonna go the distance. We're just gonna bang
Mhm.
out a bunch of paintings, and whatever happens, you actually put a time limit on yourself because artists are perfectionists. They don't, it's wait, I got to make another change, and I got to make another change, and
Mhm.
yeah, I don't hear anybody say that, right? Like, and that's something that's very interesting from before because I was just like, holy shit, he's talking about like my friend Josh. He's always gives me shit, right? What does he say? Um, Procrastination. Shit. What does he say? He says, no, paralysis paralysis by analysis.
Mhm.
He always gives me shit Mark, paralysis by analysis, right? Because I'm always like, well, I don't know what frame. I don't know. I've never hung anything
Yeah.
before. I don't know this piece, that piece. That's just get the shit on the wall. Get moving. Right?
Yeah.
Listening to you talk, like, yeah, just bang out the 40 pieces. Set a time limit. Knock it out. I don't know too many artists that think like that. Everybody thinks that one piece they're working on is their masterpiece, right? It's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
But 2023, it seems like, is that when you started painting? I mean, is that when the
Uh,
I mean, were you painting way? Were you like what art? Because I never asked you what art you were doing when you were younger. Was it drawing, painting, or like when did? Because I see like the IG popped up in 23. So were you doing it before that? It sounds like you might have been doing it before that, but uh, and then obviously you jump up on social media. But yeah, talk to
yeah.
me about that.
So 23 is when I had to suck it up and actually create the IG account. Um, but before that, yeah, when I was younger, it was a lot of not necessarily painting. It was more drawing, using pastels, using just those different mediums like that, but kind of just there was a little painting, but I'll be honest, like when I think back of some of the stuff I did, there was a lot more markers. Um, but after 2009, I was doing kind of like just everything. I've made a lot of it's going to sound funny, but I made a lot of sculptures out of bones for a while. So I was doing that, and then I was doing, watercolors. I was dabbling in paint. I tried oils once, and then I just found the acrylic, and yeah, it was just, it was just a release for me. And then the project, that we're referencing, yeah, I was standing in Vanderplas looking at something, being like, I can do this. And I went back and I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. And because of kind of like the PTSD and OCD and anxiety and all that stuff, that's why I gave myself the hard stop, is because part of me is saying, hey, you need to not be a perfectionist, because one of the best things, at least in my opinion, about art is you can always fix it. You can always change it. And the way I approach it is I don't really do a lot of planning. I don't really kind of map things out. I go by feel. I go how do I feel? How do I translate onto this canvas? And some of my most favorite pieces are just, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know where it was going. Some of my least favorite pieces are, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know where it was going, but if I don't like it, the ability to just paint over and start over, there's a lot of paintings under paintings under paintings, like the few that I'm seeing flash on the IG screen right now. Those have been painted over. And that's one of the best things is because they're all moments in time, but we're still living. So, hey, it might have fit that moment, some of my early stuff, like, yeah, and kind of like when we walk around and I show you some stuff, like, I like it because it means something to me, but it doesn't represent where I'm at now as an artist. But I still rock with it because that's a moment of time for me. I was feeling something then, whether it was like, my dog passing or, life happening or long, sad walks or, whatever that is, that's captured in that. And I know that. I know the meaning behind that thing, or I know how I was feeling when I made that. There's a lot of emotion in everything that I do, a lot of emotion with all artists, to be honest with you, like good, bad, or indifferent. We all have feelings. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it was me kind of telling myself, can you do this? And then fast forward, which is funny, fast forward a year, almost a year to the day of me standing in that gallery. I was in that gallery with my stuff on the wall, and didn't reach out to them. They reached out to me. It was another lesson learned. But yeah, I was very proud about that. Like, a year later, all of a sudden, the work that I was creating, painting every day ended up on those same walls. So anyone can do it. And then I did it, which is kind of a running joke that some of my friends and I have. So,
How you see your old work and like you're like eh, like I can't. I don't need like
it,
this. How's that work? Like when you look back a year or 2 years, do you cringe or are you like,
it,
look at it like a journey? Like how or do you get the brush and no, no, I don't, how's that
yeah.
work out?
What's funny is I still have two storage units in Boston full of art. I mean, when I said I was like painting every day, I was painting every day. Um, and there are a lot of large canvases. I look at some stuff and I say, this is hot, or this is not. This could be better. But to me, I see the story behind, kind of the paint. I see where I was at that time, so I appreciate everything. I don't think that I don't look at anything like negatively. I just look at something and say, you were on your kitchen floor. And that's the other thing, you don't need a studio to do what I do. You don't need, a gallery to do what I do. You just need a kitchen floor. You need a table. You need a bait, you need just outside, you know. A lot of my early stuff, like, yeah, I was on the floor painting. I had that thing propped up against the counter. I learned, the lesson, don't spray paint inside. Don't use like neon pink spray paint inside, because next thing you know, everything's going to be dusted in neon pink. Your lungs are not going to be happy for a while. When I moved to New York, I was spray painting off my balcony, and the J train was like right there going past all the time. Um, but yeah, no, I'm very happy with my artistic journey so far, and kind of like where I was and where I'm at right now. And I have big ambitions still of where I'll end up, where I'll be. We're talking about podcasts, we're talking about creating these other things, with some of the artists that I'm working with. I'm very excited. Same thing, curating the show at Bushwick Gallery, like first time actually curating a show, and amazing experience, talking to some of the other artists I know. How do we promote them? How do we get them into other spaces? How do I, start working with brands? How do I, get my stuff out there in a way where it's not just about frogs, it's just not about my art, but it's more about like kind of like the artistic vision and like the journey and, you know, whether it's, the Knicks or, not the Nets, but or the Celtics, just music, like kind of like what you said, is a DJ gonna one day wear my shirt? Maybe. I don't know. Some of them have them, but we'll see. Some local DJs have my shirts. Some bigger name DJs have my shirts. It was fun this summer is I think I sold about 80 of these frog shirts, the original ones. And there were times like coming in the gallery where 6, 7 people were wearing these frog shirts that, it was like a little army. And then seeing them like kind of like um, popping around the city, going to different places like Tokyo Delic over by Canal Street. At one point, we had 5, 6, folks in the frog shirt. So big shout out to Tokyo Delic and the 1010 Foundation. They're a great nonprofit that also works with artists. Um, but yeah, no, it's everything's good. You gotta always stay positive with this because if you don't, you're gonna feel stuck or you're gonna feel like you're going nowhere. And 100 paintings, just keep going.
Um, you'll understand this quickly, but I'm kind of curious to hear your answer to this. Um, I often say that it might take a long time. An artist might
Mhm.
it might happen right away, right? But a lot of times artists find this. I call it like almost in the zone, where what they're creating, what they're putting together. I'll be like that man. That artist has found their zone. Like that's
Mhm.
the artist zone. I often refer to Usapata as that because when we started the show, the first thing you said was, "Is that a palometa staring me right in the face?"
Yeah.
Right, and instantly in the art world, I think if you see that palometa, it's funny because
Yeah.
I was talking to him or I talked to somebody else, and I'm like, Usapata, and he's and no, and I'm like, do you know Usapata? Oh, the pigeon guy,
The
right?
pigeon.
And I'm like, yeah, right, the pigeon guy.
Yeah.
Never don't know his name, but knows the logo, the art.
Yeah.
Sometimes Mr. Brainwash, very well known for cracking the
Yeah.
records and creating the pieces with the cracked records. Banksy, kind of fell
Mhm.
into that style. You see a lot of street artists develop, and then they find that niche.
Yeah.
They find that maybe that little logo, that style, and you don't even have to know who they are, but you see enough of their works, and you're like, I know that artist. I know who that is, or I know who painted this, or um, so I gotta ask, the frogs. Are the frogs taking precedent, or is it or would you say it's a phase, or do you feel that you're, you know, yeah, I'm gonna let you talk because I don't know,
Yeah.
but it might be a phase. But I'm looking at a lot of your earlier stuff, and now a lot of your later stuff, and now I'm seeing the precedent of the frogs taking, King
Yeah.
Frog, King, right, and so I'm
Yeah.
curious: are the frogs the do I dare say the palometa for you, or like what are you thinking? What do you got going on in your head? Because I see a lot of frog T-shirts, a lot of frog
Yeah.
artworks are now starting to come into the forefront. So, but I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah. So I am King Frog now. But yeah, no, the frogs came from, I had this wonderful opportunity to be in this residency this summer. And, day one, I brought my stuff in. I'm like so excited, and I already kind of have again this vision of what I'm going to do for the next couple months. And gallery owner was phenomenal, but he was like, "Hey, we have a lot of street art in here right now." And yeah, there were a lot of amazing street artists. And he was like, a little street art heavy. Can you take this stuff home? And I did. And of course, like when I did, it left me with kind of like back to square one. So I said, hey, I'm gonna paint something fun. And something fun to me was a frog. Next day, I said, yeah, that was fun. Let me paint another one. Painted another one. Fast forward like what 7, 8 months later, I'm painting frogs like every day. Um, which I would say like, yeah, that's kind of my pigeon now. I'm enjoying, kind of creating this world and kind of building this out. I'm having fun, designing the shirts, designing the merch, the stickers. I do think people will kind of recognize me and kind of like my style. And that's not saying, the other side of me is going to go away. The other part, is just this is kind of like what I'm doing and where I'm at right now. And I think this is kind of going to be my character as we talk about, and how do I incorporate that into doing other things. I had this guy for a while, and I liked him, but everyone thought he was an alien. He's not an alien. Everyone thought that he was like this like creature, and I was like, well, it actually stems from this painting that I did, and I created these stickers, and the guy was actually eating ramen. So, and I just took his head, and made a sticker out of it. But yeah, I think also too is like this, it's the special journey you have with art. Like you don't want to get stuck, I think maybe my childhood, maybe the way I was brought up, Ray, the constant moving, the constant evolution, um, plays directly into my art as well, where yeah, my styles are changing. It doesn't mean that like they're going away, they're just evolving, So the character is always going to be the character. It's not going to go anywhere, but I don't know where I'll end up as an artist, It may be something completely different, but the frog will always probably come back at some point or some way. And that's the best part about it is, I can whip out a frog any day, Sounds weird, but
What did the frog? Was the frog a derivative from the aliens? How'd the frog happen?
So the first frog I actually did, it was it was riding a worm. Um, and the worm didn't necessarily look like a worm, so I had to work really hard on the shading to make sure that worm looked like a worm. Um, and then yeah, I just started doing a series of frogs riding different things. Like one of them was riding a pigeon, one of them was riding I think it was an ant. Another one was riding something else. But then eventually this frog wasn't a king yet. He was this rider. Then he got off and he was doing, he was meditating, and then he was dancing with a balloon. And then it kind of like the frog started evolving, So I had this frog who was doing these things and became a king, but then the king had to go to war, and that's when the helmet kind of was put on. And since then it's been this kind of like this war in the Bowery, living, surviving. My dog actually hates flies, petrified, scared of flies. And so part of this also too is a play on that, like, hey, this frog is fighting the flies, for my dog. Um, and now it's just, yeah, frog is who knows where the frog will end up.
um,
Probably space. They all end up in space at some point.
well, let me tell you. Are you you've been paying attention to this whole AI Atlas thing?
I've I've been watching the AI thing kind of creep, into the art world. Um, mixed feelings, it's here.
No, hang on. The spaceship that's floating around up in the big
Oh, yes. Yeah.
right. I might have said it wrong. Maybe it's the AI 3 or the AI. I don't know. They call it the AI. I thought they called it the AI Atlas. I don't pay very.
I just know it as Atlas.
Atlas.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe I'm
big
sorry. I didn't
kinda-
yeah, not a. What we should touch on 3-eye Atlas. Yo, thank you, Hito. The 3-eye Atlas.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. I didn't. Yeah, we can get to AI, but you got a big focus on aliens in your earlier works. So I
Yeah.
was curious, did you paying attention to this Atlas thing, and what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Funny story is last week I was in Bushwick and I'm walking back from the studio with the dog and ran into a group of people taking pictures up in the sky and they were like, it's a UFO. So I'm standing there too, like, and I mean it I guess it was a rocket booster or something that was kind of like the solar or something was reflecting off of it and it was falling. But I mean, I've never seen anything look like it before, so. I mean, the whole alien thing, especially in my earlier work, I think the alien was me because I always feel kind of like I'm here, but I don't really feel like I belong anywhere, and I think again, it's probably like the alienation just of moving all the time,
Ah.
never feeling like that sense of community that other people have. I always feel like I'm kind of like the outsider. And I'm comfortable with that. Like I own that, but I never feel kind of like comfortable in one place. So it's like I'm the alien. Um, but yeah, no, that yeah, I mean it'll be interesting, Am I ready to meet an alien? Who knows? Are they already here like ancient aliens? I'm not saying it's aliens, but it was aliens. Some of this stuff necessarily, I mean, I can't explain it, how things were built or, you start like looking and kind of going down those rabbit holes and you're like, could have a point. I mean, it could be real. So I just hope that it doesn't like, blow up the planet or, I hope, well, honestly, I hope we don't shoot whatever comes like right off the bat because I feel like everyone here is just so gun happy that, if an alien did come down, it is going to be like someone just shooting it, being like, oh, what? Okay, well, it's dead now. Like, so yeah, we'll see.
There's so much space junk floating around this planet. If I was
Yeah.
an alien, I'd be like, yeah, no, that place looks a little. Yeah, let's go on to the next cleaner spot to stop. These guys look all sorts of fucked up over
Right.
there. They can't even clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, your thoughts? Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, your thoughts on AI, because AI is starting to take big prevalence in the art world now, and you're a physical guy,
Mhm.
canvas guy, a painter, right? Physical
Yep.
works, and you got. I see. I don't know what they call them. I don't know if they call them doubles. I know they call the three-piece trip triptychs. Am I
Mhm.
saying that right? I don't know what
Think
the
so.
the two pieces are, but you seem to put that physical work in. What are your thoughts on the whole AI thing taking place?
Yeah. So I'm like we live in a digital world. So AI, AI is it's happening, it's here. Um, do I think it's ever going to replace the authenticity of art? No. I think what it's going to always do, it's going to mimic the talent of others, When it comes to music, I always like records, and I think that's one of the things where streaming platforms like, that everything is too accessible now. And AI is just making, it's again like, hey, I talked to Chat GPT and I'm like, what is this thing on my dog? And it'll just start telling me all this like crazy stuff. But AI also gets things wrong too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the human element to me is always like the most important. And you want to be able to feel, you want to be able to touch, and there's something real about this where I can bend a page, I can take a look and have something hanging on my wall. I do like, we talk about the Palmettos and we talk about, the whole One Love crew. Um, I like that part too. I like, going to these Web3 events and seeing these, these digital works because again, it's to me, it's not AI. To me, it's again like the human brain, like, using their talent and using their skills and creating this thing. It just lives in a different world than what I do. Um, I don't like AI, when we're talking about people painting murals. I don't like AI being used to replace that. I don't like, hey, let me just type this in and now I'm going to go paint it. You know, I I like someone stumbling over in their brain being like, what am I going to paint? What am I going to paint? What am I going to paint? And then trying and being like, oh man, for actually up until just recently, I never used a reference until like I was at this residency and I saw people saying like, "Oh yeah, well, what's your reference?" And they're like, "I don't have a reference. I'm using my brain." And they're like, "Yeah, that's why your frog's leg is all bent wrong." Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, because I'm imagining what a frog looks like in my head. What you're doing is you're saying, "Hey, look at this picture of the frog, and that's the way it looks." I'm over here like it looks like this, you know. Um, and that's kind of like that's the way I approach things, but it's going to be dependent on how we use it. I don't want it to replace jobs. I don't want it to replace art. I don't want it to replace artists. I don't want it to replace creativity, but it's going to be another tool that we're going to have to learn how to adapt and use, just like folks did with smartphones and the internet, and all that stuff. Um, just we'll see. I don't know. What do you think?
Uh, they say at some point in time it's going to be able to think on its own, but it draws from us, and we're the originals,
Yeah.
And we're the ones that are constantly being creative, and we're the ones that are constantly,
Yeah.
creating from imagination, from inspiration, from, you can wake up, you wake up tomorrow and you could be like, I'm gonna fucking paint some shit
Yeah.
that nobody's ever painted before, right? Just because
Yeah.
on your way walking, you just stumbled over something and you had an idea. Like, look at the person, this. You ever see the person who puts paint on top of the sewer caps, and then they put the T-shirt? Have you ever seen the girl who does that? I think it's a girl. So basically she'll take a roller and she'll roll paint over like the city sewer caps. And so if you ever looked at city sewer caps, like you go to Boston, they'll say Boston on them. You go to New York, they'll say
Yeah.
New York, Manhattan. Even the older ones had designs on them. And so if she comes across one, she'll paint over one, then she'll press a shirt or she'll press a print or a piece of paper on it, right? And like, what
Yeah.
a fucking crazy thing that, like, who, like, that's not, I don't know if that's anything that I would ever think of, right? But somebody did think of
Yeah.
it, and now you look at the works, you look at her T-shirts, you look at the prints, and you're like, holy shit, like these are really, really cool, right? Now,
Yeah.
yeah, AI can duplicate it, right? But who would think to do that first? Like
Yeah.
who except the human? It's the humans that are into all this fucking crazy shit, right? It's the humans are the ones that come up with like the weirdest shit. Like, would AI duct tape a banana to the wall and call it art? Or,
Right.
like all this art is anything, right? You never know what's going to sell with art. That's what got the banana. That's what got everybody crazy with the banana being like, nobody knew the story behind it. There was a huge story that led to it, but like at the same time, the girl with the sewer caps and the paint, like, it's is that something you would tell AI come up with something new? What's it gonna do? It's gonna search the internet, and it's gonna come up with something that a human created, and then it's gonna build off of that, right? So like, is it really ever gonna be original or create? Like, yeah, I think it's an excellent source and an excellent tool. And if you can incorporate it somehow, it could definitely make you stronger. I think when people do digital art, a lot of people just grab art off the internet, but you might be grabbing someone else's art, right?
Yeah.
Where AI can give you an original. It can give you something that's never been created, never been done. Nobody can come up behind you and be like, hey, you used my piece in your artwork. That's copyright. Like, so there's reasons to use it, but like, do I ever think that it's going to come up with something original? would it come up with a palmetto? Would it come up with a frog? Would it come up? That's coming from someone's soul. That's coming from someone's life. You know, that's coming from someone's experiences, where AI has the ability to, you know, scour the internet and maybe give you ideas. Maybe if you're stuck, you know, like those guys said, references, right? Like maybe if you, but what do? You walk around the city, something inspires you, you create something, next thing you know, a whole collection comes off it, right? That's where I think the difference is. You know, that's where I think AI and humans, you know, split. You know, that's where I think the line is drawn. I don't think it could create originality. I think it has to draw from what we're creating. So I feel like at some point in time, it's going to become so saturated that, you know, people are going to yearn for that original stuff. People are going to look for that originality. And that's where I think artists really do come to the forefront and become, you know, I always said artists, I feel like it's their time. You're seeing it now on, you know, you're seeing it through TikTok. You're seeing it through, you know, IG. You're seeing it through whips. You're seeing people get super, super, super creative. There's a guy, he takes in an engine, the pistons. Is it the piston? Is it the piston part that I'm thinking about? That's right. That's the part. He takes the cylinder and he draws these army guys, and he gives them cigars, and he makes these little statues of these little army guys from the cylinders of the pistons. To watch a human be creative, you know, that's art, right? To me, that's the true essence of art, is watching somebody. AI can duplicate it to a T. That's true, and it could take that style and it could give you something from it, but it didn't originate that. You know, it's somebody had that idea. Somebody, you know, had that, oh shit. And so that's where I really think the value comes from. The value comes from someone, that originality, that creativity. You know, can you get on AI and be creative and original? Sure, with prompting, absolutely. But, you know, what is it drawing from? It's drawing from, you know, thousands of years of creativity, of photo people. You know, you see a lot of this in photography. Other people who create and shoot and get very creative. So, you know, that's kind of like my take on it. You know, will it ever create something from originality? I think it'll always be drawing from us, you know?
You just don't don't want the Temu version of things, you know. I think that's the biggest scare right now, is just, you know, one of these AI things just taking someone's design and being like, hey, here's the Temu palmetto, hey, here's the Temu frog,
Right.
and just making money off of it, and the artist gets nothing, you know. So
Right. Like, how hard is it to go into AI and, you know, hey, Banksy style, this type of T-shirt, right? Not him, but yet his style, right? And so that's the dangerous part, and that's where I think things get super saturated, because it's like, now how do you know the original? That's where I think the original, you know, will there be a market for it? Sure, but then it's like, you know, it's the knockoffs on the corner compared to the original in the store. There'll be people who will be able to afford the originals, and there'll be people who, you know, purchase the knockoffs. But eventually, you know, that's where I feel like the artists will shine, because the ones that aren't the ones that aren't creating knockoffs, that's where the key is. All right, here's what I want to do. I want you to. No, we're gonna save that for the very end. Let's talk about Thursday. Right, you got your. I didn't know, but your first curation over at, you know, Gina and Bushwick Gallery, Vivid Force, the power of bold color, right? What I want to do is I want to bring up. I'm going to bring up right now. Hang on one second. Let me bring this up. I think it's maybe it's my email. It's on the website. I know that for a fact, but sometimes I have issues finding it for it's not November, right? It's yeah, it is November, but this is for something different. All right, let me just bring it up real quick in my email. Uh, this is the press release. Perfect. No, no. Okay, there we go. All right. I'm bringing this up. Let me bring you back. And let's talk about Vivid Force, the Power of Bold Color, which is November 13th to the 20th. Opens on 8 p.m. on Thursday, correct? Why don't you talk a little bit about yeah, what's your experience with this and you know, your first curation and what did you know, for you, what's important when it comes to curating and you know, what was your experience going through this and how did you decide about the works of art? I mean, I imagine it can't be easy, you know, looking through all the submissions and yeah, why don't I let you talk about this, man?
Yeah, yeah. No, this is I had my first show. Well, I I was in my first show at Bushwick Gallery a while back, and it was actually the piece behind me. The curator of that show was Fern, and absolutely phenomenal. But that was my first introduction to Bushwick Gallery and Gina. Gina is outstanding. She's amazing. She works really hard for the artists. So um, sh- when I went to go pick up my piece, she actually pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I have a great opportunity for you. Like, let's see if you're interested." And it was actually kind of assisting Yusuf with his first solo show in New York, and just kind of being that point of contact in New York, and him in Colombia. And so we did that. We had the interview with Yusuf. Yusuf and I destroyed her walls and that couch, spray painting it, which apparently it's still not completely like fixed. Sorry, but um, after that, she said, "Hey, I have another opportunity for you. How would you like to curate a show?" And at that point, I've been working with these other artists for so long that like I said early on, that I want to create more opportunities for people, and I thought this was a great opportunity. So we had over 200 and something submissions to go through, all phenomenal artists, all phenomenal art. And I really was looking for that. Yeah, I'm gonna mess it up. That bold color, those was it
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fiery reds and yeah, those fiery reds and deep blues or something like that. Um, so looked at that and we found a collection of artworks from these different artists that really kind of highlight what I was looking for. The pieces that are going to be in the show are phenomenal, and again, so many phenomenal artists submitted, so many phenomenal artists. It made it very difficult to choose, but we got it down to 15. It's going to be a very, very exciting night. Every event at Bushwick Gallery is always something to kind of talk about. We have some special things lined up. We got some special drinks, some champagne. We have a photographer. It'll be a great night. It's going to be full of color. I was asked to wear something colorful, and I was like, I have nothing. But um, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the artists that are involved, for people to see their artwork. Which, I'm telling you, there's absolutely phenomenal pieces. I mean, yours definitely included. I mean, we have this art from different places around the world. Um, and it's just kind of capturing just the essence of just, you know, I guess you could say like not just bold color, but bold meaning. Like it's just a reinterpretation. I was looking at a Belle's kind of write up, Bella Shum. She's in the show, and the write up was like, it transcends into this dreamlike kind of like atmosphere. And you look at the painting and you're like, yeah, I feel something. And so each of these paintings like kind of invoked some sort of emotion. And it's not just paintings. We have some other phenomenal art included. You know, we have some I believe we have a vase that's outstanding. And then we have this amazing crocheted octopus looking thing, which I'm very, very excited to see in person. So, um, yeah, no, phenomenal artist, great art. It's going to be a great night. My first curated show that I'm doing won't be my last, but um, yeah, I'm very excited. A lot of work, a lot of work. So,
I know. I will say this: Gina always, for some reason, every time I walk in there, every time she has something going on, whether it's a solo show or
mhm.
a curated show, there's always a theme. Fractal. I forget the name of it
Yeah,
exactly, but she had these mirrors on the wall with the cracked glass, and
yes,
right, and I'm looking and I'm like, is that artwork or is that decoration, right? And she's like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I was like, I tell you what, you decorated the. She always has the drinks on point. She's like, well,
yes,
well, this is what we're serving. We're serving this, and then she has well, it's Italian, so we're having these with the and I'm like, she really puts a lot of thought into, it's just not
yeah,
a. Yeah, it's just not we're gonna do it. There's a theme, and there's
yeah.
always thought into the hors d'oeuvres, into the drinks,
Mhm.
into the art on the way the decorations on the wall, the way she has. And I gotta give her, I gotta give credit where credit's due. I always like, and to me it's a so bold color. I love color, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious what to see, to what we're gonna walk into, and how you guys are gonna do it. So I'm very excited to see how, and then just watching you walk, which is the big, the exciting part of this whole entire show is watching you. I've been saving the best part to the very end of you showing off,
Yeah.
your place, your apartment. Not only that, but I heard you run a pretty mean bed and breakfast over there. Uh, I was picking up Usapata that morning, and he was in the
Mm,
back of the car. And let me tell you, I thought he was leaving Yelp reviews. He was like 5 stars, 5 stars. He's like, man, let me tell you, this guy, he cooked a breakfast for me and eggs, and I felt like I'm like, really? I'm like,
yeah.
how you get into this bed and breakfast? I'm like, I'm like, wow. I'm like, the way he described it, he's like, man,
Yeah.
I did not want to leave this morning. I'm sorry. He was making me. I got up, and he's like, I just sat back and relaxed, and he made me these nice eggs. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was just the way he had me crack. He had us cracking up in the car, and I'm like, wow, this sounds very interesting. What do you? I was like, so yeah, I heard you got five stars on the Yelp review. But
Good.
yeah, he had us cracking up with that. But I am curious to see how you do place everything. I think.
Yeah.
Are you the one who's actually gonna? Yeah, yeah.
I'll be doing the install tomorrow, so we still have artists that will be dropping off in the morning. And then after that, I'll be spending the rest of the night kind of setting things up, getting things prepared. We're not going to have the broken glass, but we're
Right,
going to have something colorful.
right.
My suggestion was again to spray paint the whole place again, and she politely declined and said it already took 10 layers of white paint to try to cover up what Yusuf and I did. So I get it. But no, we're already cooking up something else too, which is great, just kind of like what you said. You walk in, you start talking to Gina, and boom, it's like I got these ideas, I have these ideas, I have these ideas, and that's I think one of the best things about her and the gallery. Same thing, Scott, in the background, providing that support, helping out, and Scott's a big runner too. So I have a lot of respect for both of them and what they're doing and what they're trying to do for the art community here. located in Bushwick. Bushwick is, all the artists are in Bushwick. And I joke about that because, we joke about how, oh, everyone in Manhattan, that's where all the money is. That's where everyone, wants to be. And then we're like, all the artists are here creating. How do we get these people over here? Well, Gina created this space that, is perfect for that. It's nice. We're gonna have the champagne, we're gonna have the food. I do have to tell you a really funny story. Yusuf's solo show, I get the whole spiel about, it's authentic Colombian like snacks and drinks and the candy, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great, and I've never been to Colombia and I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm eating these chips. And if Yusuf's still on, like I'm eating these chips. I'm like, oh man, these are so good. These are so good. Eventually I turned to him, I'm like, what do you guys call these? And he's like, dude, those are Takis. And I was like, what? And I was like, I thought they were like this Colombian chip. He's like, no, man, those are Takis. And I was like, the Takis that I can buy at the store right here? He's like, yeah, man. What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, I thought these were Colombian like special things I'm eating. No, they were just Takis. But Takis are good. But yeah, no, we're gonna have something good lined up. We're gonna have some kimbap. We're gonna have a shoju drink. I got a bartender lined up, to mix and make those drinks for everyone. I think we might have some other finger food as well. Again, trying to just make people feel comfortable, make people feel at ease. We can talk about the art, highlight the amazing art on the walls, and just, have a great positive experience, and then just keep that rolling. We'll be doing private tours too after the opening night. So it's not, hey, if you miss this window, you're not going to be able to see it. I'm going to be available to like, take people around and show people. So, and it's online too, which is good.
Now,
People can see that.
quick question too, right? It doesn't just stop after the opening, right? I mean, you have, as a curator, you have a responsibility. You mentioned tour, so I mean, if is the gallery open for viewing? How does it work throughout the week?
Yeah, so the gallery will be open like throughout the week. Just, it's going to be more of a, hey, reach out to me and I'll be there. Um, and I think that's kind of where my focus and my goal is to make sure that one, we're highlighting all of these artists, and then two, um, we're talking about how amazing they are, how amazing their artwork is. And it's great. I mean, it's phenomenal. If you get a chance to like take a look at all the artist profiles online, and then the art that actually is going to be there. Um, all phenomenal artists, and they're from all over the world. We have someone from Hong Kong, we have someone from Serbia, we have someone from Harlem, we have folks from all over the place, which is great. And I think that again kind of highlights that melting pot, community that we have here in New York is just, it's bringing people together. Um, but yeah, no, I'll be available for private tours. We're still going to make it into an event, if we do these private tours. So more than likely we'll have some champagne out, and just have an opportunity to appreciate this art. It'll be up through the 20th. And then, we'll see what else is cooking.
Real quick question: will all the artists be present with their art, or how does that work?
Um, Hopefully all the artists will be there. I do hope all the artists will make it. And I think so far they will. Because again, this is a celebration of them and what they have achieved. We all talk about, us creating our masterpieces, and then us getting that art out there. And this is a perfect opportunity. And I know we're going to do something again, next week.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
We should talk about that. Yeah, really
yeah.
quick. That we will be doing a show from the gallery, showcasing all of the artists, your curation, and then hopefully there'll be some artists that will also be part of that show as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and again, who doesn't want to hear from the artists themselves, And I think that's where I can tell the story of what's in front of me, but they can do it even better, because it's their heart, mind, and soul that went into that. that piece of work. So
Yeah, these guys are the ones that really, you could look at something and you can interpretate it, 7, 8 different ways. Somebody walks by and everybody has a different, it means something different to every single person,
yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, it's the artist that is the one that, created it. So I always find it interesting listening. And you know what? Miguel was right. Miguel was, you got to have a story. You got to have a story. And I
Yeah.
always find the artist's story behind the work of art very interesting because it's always something you never like
Mhm.
this piece right here is something that I was such in a dark hole at that point in time. And, I just picked up about it, did something. And it's like listening to the story behind it brings a lot of different meaning to the piece. You could look at the piece. You could, like I said, somebody can interpret it however they want. But the truth is when you listen to the artist speak about their piece, that's when you really find that true meaning. And you might sit there and be like, "Whoa, I'm completely off." Yeah, wow. And then that ultimately does take on a new meaning in a way. It's just listening to you speak as well. It's like, yeah, this piece right here, this piece is, this piece has a lot of meaning. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. What meaning does that have? And what part of your
Yeah.
life? And, it brings a different perspective to the artworks where, most people just, well, I see it this way. Like, it's because you see it that way. I don't mean that that's the way, that's the meaning behind it. So always interesting to hear them talk. So hopefully they'll all be present for the show as well. I think that's next Wednesday, guys. So next Wednesday on let's make sure we got it right, the 19th, we will have that show. That show will start at 6 p.m. All right. Before we get the final tour, we have to get the details out of the way first. Michael, do me a favor. How can everybody find you, reach out to you, contact you? What's the best way? Somebody, why don't you give them that information?
All right. So the best way to reach out to me right now is through Instagram. It's moart617. And believe it or not, it's not Mo Art, it's Michael O'Malley. But also Mo Art. And then 617 is actually the area code of Boston. So again, it's kind of like all tied together, and it's back to that branding. I had a different username a while back, and they were like, the same guy who took the phone and was like, nope. They were like, you don't even know you're doing art. And I was like, good point, good point. So moart617, and then from there, you can send me a message. You can like, comment, share. I do have a Shopify with all of these different designs. The link also is in IG. And then of course, like WhatsApp, always hit me up at WhatsApp. Probably just hit me up on IG first. So
You're faster on IG, huh?
I'm faster on yeah, I think so.
I didn't know that. See, you got to figure out where somebody hangs out. You just, it's funny. Some people answer much quicker. Speaking of IG, before, what's up, you surprise? So you saying hello. What's up, Shaker? I see you on IG. I always forget about IG, man. What up, Hudasaka? Hudasaka says hello. What up, Steve? Steve says hello. Everybody. See, there's some guys that love certain places, and I always forget because I'm always so, I'm always so focused on X and all the, but
Web3.
yeah,
So.
Okay, so we got this, we got that. Okay, what I want to do is what we saved for the end of the show, which I feel is the most exciting part, and then we're going to say goodnight to everybody. Can you take us through a tour of what you got going on? Give me a second. Let me set back these screens. I want to make sure that everybody, let's see, I'm going to put you full screen. Let me get you full screen. Let me switch this camera back. Let me make sure that I got everything. Yeah, that's what I want to do here. And I don't want to do double. I want to give you as much room as possible. So let me swap back this camera. And yeah, so this most times people say, yeah, I'm just gonna do the, I got a studio, but I'm gonna do the show from home. And when I hear that, I get nervous because I'm like, well, shit. That's not gonna be like a studio. Like they're not gonna have their art in the background. I'm not gonna, boo, right? And we got to do. I always get worried when I hear that. Like, let's do it from my gallery. I was obviously like the right, but and then I'm not gonna lie. You were sitting there. You had some lockers behind you. I'm like, where's the art? Where's the
Yeah.
art? And I'm like, shit. Like, he ain't gonna have no art behind him. And then you're like, well, let me show you what I got. And I'm like, all right. And as you took me for a tour through everything, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this is awesome. So on that note, I'm gonna just get out the way, and I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you just take us for a look around everything, and I'm gonna shut
Yeah.
up. You give us the tour, man.
All right. So I just brought back a lot of art from the gallery that I had a frog room up full of my frog paintings. But I mean, we've looked at this now for the last couple hours, but I have art everywhere. So, and some of this stuff, this was an old door that I found on the street in Boston, in East Boston. Um, we have some old stuff here. Those are aliens. Those are aliens. Different things. All of this again is all frog stuff. But front door, I got some large paintings here. This is one of my friend's dogs. But then I'm going to take you down my stairwell, and hopefully I don't trip. So I'm going to show you some of this stuff, and we'll just walk down together.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
this is my stairwell. Um, and I'll give you. I don't know if you can see everything, but we'll walk back up too.
How,
just to
how,
make
how
sure that
did
you
you
can
get
see.
the measurements? How did you get this thing so perfect?
I eyeballed it.
No way! Come on, you had to make
Yeah.
those. You didn't. So you didn't measure those things beforehand at all when you were hanging.
No, I
Holy
got those.
shit!
And there's my dog.
What is your
Dog.
dog's name?
My dog's name is Mystic. Where is she? Mystic Rose. She's a retired racing greyhound. So good girl. And now she's using it as a nest. But yeah, let me oh, I got some stuff over here. Treadmill, Peloton, but just random stuff. It's all over the place. But let me run back up the stairs so you can kind of see it again. And like I said, I have 2 storage units in Boston full of art. I have a lot of art still in my studio in Bushwick. So happy to give tours around there as well if you're ever interested. Working with Cole, Levi, Crouch, Beloki, and Wizard Skull. So great group. And yeah, that's kind of what I have cooking over here. This is where I live. And that's what I do.
Do you ever use your place as a gallery? You ever walk anybody through who's interested in a piece?
I haven't. I mean, I'm definitely open to doing that. I just haven't. I've had some artists come here and they're like, "Whoa, what? I wasn't expecting this." And I was like, "Yeah, no one usually is." But yeah, I was thinking early on of like trying to have like some like artist events here. I have a backyard. I mean, now it's a little cooler, so probably won't happen. But yeah, no, I think one of the biggest things too is like people don't know what you have. IG doesn't really necessarily a great catalog of what's available.
Yeah, how do you not have
And
some pictures of this on IG? I was do you normally get this response when somebody sees this?
yeah,
Yeah, all right.
my
So,
Yeah. My place in Boston, there was actually like literally no room on the walls. Um, I had everything covered, and then I had another room that was just like stacked. There was like stacks against the wall. Um, it's fun for me though, because it's like one, this is the art that I created, but then two, it's I like color, and I kind of like living in a place that feels alive. I have some plants over here, green is good. Um, life is good, and art brings people joy. Art brings me joy. Art makes me feel connected again to those past memories and places and people. So in a way, this is kind of also a little shrine to them and to all of that. So
I was gonna say that a lot of times, do you ever get gifted any type of art with other artists? And if you do, do you have how do you make room? Do you have room? Do you have a spot? Do you have like a shrine for other artists' artworks? Like how you know?
it, I do. So what I've tried to start doing, I mean, you'll see a turtle caps up there. You got some more L'Amour Supreme back here. Um, I have some pieces from Motomatic, Below Key, um, Jonah. Like I have these pieces and I try to find a place to make it work and to fit. Um, I just, I'm very lucky to know a lot of talented and amazing people, and I want all of their art. I just need a bigger place. But the problem living in New York is, hey, there's not a lot of room here. It's like me and my dog, and we're already tripping over each other. And I have this studio now, which a lot of the art kind of like, well, not a lot, but I was happy to move some art supplies and everything out of here, but I mean, I still have this whole stack here that I would love to like use for actual like living stuff, but it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Need more wall space, huh?
I need more wall space. Yeah.
I don't think that would be I don't think that would help you, man. I think you'd fill it up super quick. Um,
Yeah.
shit. All right. Let's. I'm gonna. I think I must have misplaced the battery, so I want to give the battery just a few minutes to charge. But what we can do is what we can do right now is usually at this point in the time we ask everybody, the guests on the show, to leave some words of advice, some inspiration, maybe something for other artists out there. Maybe for some guys in the military who feel like, they got some artist in them, but not something that, they would bring out. Yeah, I don't know. I got to be honest with you. You said some really inspiring stuff throughout the show. Some really good stuff too, especially with the marketing and but so I'm just gonna let whatever first comes to your head, but maybe some inspirational words for everybody before we say goodnight.
Yeah. No, hopefully folks got something out of this, but I think, authenticity is so important, originality is so important. Don't try to be someone else. You're going to see amazing art, you're going to see amazing artists, but um, don't try to replicate what they're doing. Like, be you, do you. I think we as people can go as far as we want. There are no limitations. You just have to work, and you have to put in the work. If you're going to be spray painting, focus on that. If you're going to be painting, focus on that. Always work on getting better because each day you're going to get better. I always joke around with people, running. No one likes running, but you have people out there running 100 miles. They're doing these ultras. I just watched an amazing artist, um, run the marathon, and you see what people can achieve. It's just like, with everything, you have to put your head down, do the work, and never feel stuck. The whole point of all of this is to have fun. It's not to like focus on sales. It's not to focus on, oh, I need to blow up. I need a viral moment. I need, yeah, your big stunts are going to be there, but the key is like your happiness. Are you happy when you're doing this? What is it, a release for you? Are you being your true self? Are you taking care of yourself? That balance again is so important. You know, us as artists, like, yeah, there's late nights, there's, you know, unhealthy eating at times. The key though is, hey, go to the gym, go run. I run every day. I run every day, and then after, my brain is in a better place, and now I can do this. Sometimes, again, like I said, we feel stuck, and we only have one life. Well, depending on what you believe in, we get one shot at this. So don't waste the moments that you have. Like, stay at home, you're not going to do anything. If you're passive, it's not going to come to you. If you expect someone to knock on your door one day and say, "Hey, do you have art?" Not going to happen. Get out there, meet people, engage with the art community, engage with people who are interested in art. Don't stay in one place. Um, if your shows aren't rocking, go to different shows. Find something. Find where you fit, and be happy. So
How you run every day?
I run every day.
Are you a
Yeah.
David? I gotta imagine you're a David Goggins fan.
I know who he is, but man, I
No.
I run through my own battles. I know he has two blown out knees, and I have two knees that have needed surgery now for a couple of years, and I still run on them. But running to me is that outlet that I need to like just basically get through the day. Um, and it kind of like again focuses me like so I can focus on the art. My head will, if I don't have this balance, my head goes into other places, and you know life happens. So
Are you on Strava?
I'm not. I'm on the Apple Watch.
Okay,
So,
okay. I just started running back in August. First time in my life. And I have a friend lives across the street. He shout out to Nick, right? Big motivational guy. I call him Nick the Machine. Every time I see him, he's running either this way or running this way. I'm just saying, damn, like that guy don't stop. Like he don't look like he quit. I was like, I'd never been able to run like that in my life. So after about 2-3 months, he got me up to I just my biggest one right now was I think 5.6 or 6 somewhere in there. I'm afraid to ask because you're military, so I know where this goes, but I'll ask anyway. What's a run for you?
um, so I do have two. I have some injuries. I also play basketball, and one summer I broke a finger, broke a tooth on a chain link fence, broke a rib, blew out my knee twice, and then my ankle collapsed from the running. Never got any of it fixed. So I have a crooked finger. I did get my tooth capped, which is good. So my runs changed into more of like survival runs. So my time definitely kind of got a little slower. I have a half marathon coming up on the 22nd. Very excited about. That's at Prospect Park in Brooklyn. I ran a half around Brooklyn around April. Did a Diplo fun run, which that was fun, but it was a 5K a couple weeks ago. And my runs usually it depends on if I want to do 8 miles, depends on if I do five. I try to do at least like two just to be consistent. This summer, I was running from Bushwick over to the Bowery. So that was a nice 5 miles to the gallery, help clean the gallery, set things up, take the train back, take a shower, go back to the gallery, paint. Um, I like to move, and then, sometimes I'll do that run and then I'll jump on a city bike and just, do another sometimes 10 miles, depends on where I want to go. The best thing to do is like I said, being out there, and
Yep.
it's in New York is the best place. I mean, if you want to run and you want to see some stuff, you want to see some great art, go run, get on a bike, go bike. especially around Bushwick, especially around Brooklyn. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of great
especially,
art all over the walls everywhere, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, Freeman Alley and the Bowery, that's, it's constantly changing. I mean, and like you said before, everyone has different art. I know I have a good friend. He does art with floppy disks and puts them up around the city. You're not going to see this stuff unless you're actually out there. Different shows, different galleries, different moods, different people. If you want more street, hey, we got that. If you want more of a gallery experience, hey, we got that too. You want to drive over to the Hamptons and see some fine art? Hey, jump on that train. So,
I had a feeling 8 Miles was coming out. I just had a feeling that you were going to say 5 to 8.
yeah.
One last time, one real quick time. I'm going to see if I could get 5 minutes out of this battery. Tell everybody real quick about the gallery information and your show.
All right, so Bushwick Gallery. Bushwick Gallery is located in, believe it or not, Bushwick. I do have a link to the gallery on my IG, which again, MoArt617. I believe it's 22 Fayette Street, but don't quote me. I might get that wrong. The event is from 6 to 8. It is going to be a very good night. We're going to have a lot of great things in store for the artists and for you. Come out, come support. And then if you want a private tour, by all means, just reach out to me, let me know. But, these artists definitely, they work hard, and it's great to kind of like put them in the spotlight and let them shine.
All right. I'm going to set back this thing here to 20. Let's see. I'm going to set this back to the double. And then we're going to say goodnight. Let me put this back on camera so you're not talking to an empty chair. Hopefully I can get 5 minutes out of this.
And we got the Palmetto back.
Yeah. I got to I'm a big I love art, bro. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
I love talking to the artists. Gina's funny one day. She's like, "Man, you really love talking to artists." And I'm like, "You have no idea." I love hearing the stories. I love everything that, I love, there's so many politics, religion, race, color, all sorts of things that we every day sit and argue about and debate about and fight wars over, and one thing I noticed is when it comes to art, everybody's just so, oh man, that's beautiful. Oh, that's great. It doesn't matter. You put artists together and they get along. And they don't fight, and none of that shit, comes up, and nobody's arguing or getting into it. And, nobody said none of the other shit matters except, when you have artists together, nothing else matters except the art. And so like art brings, even in spaces, as if people could have completely different political opinions, religious beliefs, disbelief of vegans, meat eaters, constantly fighting. But, in art, oh man, I love your art, man. I love your art. It's like, it's just, there's no, yeah, art kind of breaks down all walls between everybody. And you know how opinionated everybody is today with social media. And you go to somebody's social media and not know them. You could look at it, I hate this guy, right? Or I hate this girl.
Yeah.
And then you end up in a space with them and instead, right? And you never saw any of their social media. And you just listen to them talk about their art and you look at their art. And, all of a sudden these friendships form and all this other shit kind of fades away. And so, if I recognize that, I'm sure you recognize that as well, especially from all of your worldly experience. All right. Mike, man, I wanted to say, we got one last question, but before I ask it, I want to say thank you for taking your time to come on the show. Man, I know I mentioned this to you way back with Yusuf Potter's show, and I thought this was the perfect timing. And sometimes I get lost with the guests and forget. I'm like, oh man, I wanted to go back and get it. So I'm glad that you took the time out. Thank you for making the time and having the patience and coming on. And I definitely thought it was perfect timing. The promotion of your first curation, your art. I thought it's a good time for everyone to get to know you. So man, so I appreciate your time with this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was a very quick 2.5 hours. So
when I say 2 hours, everybody's like, what are we gonna talk about for tub? Like you have no idea how fast time goes.
yeah,
No,
I wasn't expecting this. So
you have no idea how fast it cooks. Shout out to you, Zapata, because I know he, I said, you do me a favor, Yusuf. I was like, just send him a message and let him know about the show. And I said, in case he doesn't know me from a hole in the wall, but make mention to it, and let him know that I'd love to get him on so we could promote the curation and just perfect timing. And then I'll see you again on the 19th. And before we say goodnight, guest always gets to pick one song to close on. So you got a song?
I do. So let's play Hunter, Shook Ones Part 3.
Okay, Hunter, Shook Ones Part 3. You got IG open?
I do.
All right, do me a favor. Just can you send me that link in the DM of that?
Of the song?
Yeah, is it? Oh, can I just search it on YouTube?
Yeah, you probably could.
All right, I got it. Hunter, if I might have to ask you. Do me one favor. Hang on for 2 minutes. Let me close the show. I'm gonna come back. We're gonna say goodnight to everybody on the comments, and then hit the track. You could bounce, and we're good. All right, let me just close out here. Okay. All right, guys. All right, that's Michael O'Malley for you. What a great show. What a great tour through his I'm gonna call it his gallery. He lives in a gallery. What a great tour through his life, learning about his art. If you want to check him out, you can check him out more on IG. And then also first curated show in Brooklyn this Thursday, Bushwick. So, invite all you guys if you're in New York, if you're close. RSVP, the link is out there. And yeah, would love to see you guys and come support, Michael, come check out more of his work. And hopefully we'll see all you guys in Bushwick. On that note, for the rest of the week, okay, Spaces tomorrow, 9 to 11. You guys know Sketch and Shira and Linked by Art. We always have a space. We'll see everybody in that space tomorrow. 2 hours, and then Sketch closes it. We don't have a community show this week, so Wednesday we got nothing. Friday, we do have a guest on Friday, but I don't remember who. Matter of fact, we got so many great guests. Oh no, we do have a show on Friday, and that show is Carlo's show. Carlo was an artist that we interviewed at Bushwick, but for some reason we lost the feed. We had a disconnection. And so we're going to replay that show because we never got a chance to show that whole show. So Carlo is good. So I guess it's kind of like a Bushwick week. So we're going to do Carlo's show on Friday. We also scheduled Chris, who's also running the residency at Bushwick, but he's not going to be on till December 5th. And then we have a whole collage of great artists coming on throughout the next 2 months. Yeah, I think so. I kind of filled up the schedule. We got everybody. We got Dave's community show next Wednesday in the AM, and then don't forget we also have the Bushwick Gallery curation show back with Mike on that night. So yeah, a lot of shows happening. Also Friday, how you guys forget TGIF? We'll see you guys on TGIF. That's our only 2 spaces that I'm on X. So on that note, I want to thank all you guys for tuning in, hanging in there. We went a little bit extra, but the conversation was so great. You guys know that it's hard for me to shut everything down. So on that note, guys, I got a piece of art showing in Michael's show, and I want to invite all you guys to see it on Thursday. It opens on the 13th at Bushwick Gallery. On that note, let's bring them back one last time to say goodnight to everybody. All right, there we go. Gotcha here. And then let's bring you back here. All right, good to go. And let's bring up this song. And before we do, we'll say goodnight to everybody in the box. All right, let me see. That just came up. Hot ones. Let me go to IG real quick and bring that up. Actually, it's probably, why am I gonna complicate things? Let me just do this the easy way. And let me switch back this camera so you're not sitting there staring at something. Webcam. Okay. Real quick, what was that track one more time?
So HNTR, that's the artist name, and then Shook Ones, SHOOK ones, and then it's part 3.
Let's bring this up. Part 3, HTNR, Shook Ones, Part 3. Got it. Okay. All right, let's get this track up. Okay. On that note, let's go through the routine. Where do we start? We'll start over here on Twitch, which is quiet tonight, which one day there'll be millions of people dropping comments. Let's check out YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's quiet too, but I know a couple places that aren't quiet. Facebook, what's up? Big Money, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. Yo, Hammer, T-Bird, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. I appreciate you guys. Alan, what's good, my friend? Gina, what's good? I want to thank all you guys for tuning in, being part of the show. Let's jump over. You know what? We'll save IG for last because I feel like IG is your home. X, Hito, always a pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. It was a phenomenal show. Mr. Artistical, Spike, always a pleasure to see you. We got to get you on, Spike. Thank you for being part of the show. We'll head over to IG, which I feel like is your home. T.I., I hope I say this, T-Bert Art 1. Yeah, T-Bert, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. Luco, part of the Art Cartel. We'll have Luco on as a recap show in December. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. It's Joanne, Joanne, maybe Joanne. Yeah, maybe that's it. Thank you for being part of the show. Event, thank you for being part of the show. Hudasaka, thank you for being part of the show. Mariana, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. Steve, thank you for being here. Yusufata, Josinimasi, Nelia, Significance, Shaker, Seendorf, Team Vaz, Fonda Cox, 99. Go easy on it. What's up? Webby, I'll talk to him. We're trying to migrate him a little bit over to X right now. So let's see. Webby Owls, Creative Owls, runs a site at webbysocial.com. Really good platform and very interesting way to on things. And so he's like, get him over on Webby. So I'll send you some links to that. Easy thing for you to sign. It's not difficult to sign on at all. But you might want to take a look at it. Yeah, he's excited. He's excited about you, man. All right, guys, everybody on IG, everybody on X, I want to thank all you guys for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. Michael, you want to say goodnight to everybody?
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Look forward to you coming out on Thursday. But feel free to reach out to me again, MoArt617. Thank you for spending the last 2 hours and 39 minutes with me. And Mark, thank you so much. This was amazing. So.
Yeah, man. I had a good time. You know what? I'm happy that I got a chance to get to know you, especially before Thursday night. I remember being there at Usapata, and Usapata was like, man, you got to meet Michael. And I shook hands real quick, but I never got a chance to talk to you. But now I did. And I was happy that I could do this and really showcase you and showcase the event. And, you know, looking forward to next Wednesday as well. But even looking more forward to a Thursday. And you're going to be there tomorrow, right?
I will.
So
I will.
I'll be tumbling in with my piece. So I'll see you probably around 1:32.
Awesome.
But, it was a pleasure having you on. You are a free man. I'm going to hit the track. I'm going to play out on some of your art. And I will definitely see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bro, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you. Thank you for the time. All right. All right, guys. Let's end on Michael's art.
and $100 villas. To all the killers and $100 villas. I can rap, this one ain't got no feelings. To all the killers and $100 villas. To all the killers and $100 villas. I can rap, this one ain't got no feelings.
Just you want me to exit?
Hang on. I'm gonna close it in 1 minute anyway. Hang on.
Okay.
And that was a damn good show. We'll see everybody on the next one. Hito, you should come on Thursday. See all you guys on the next one. Peace.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Hang on 1 second. Let me shut the stream.